Look at the cameras. Watch where they point, and watch what they find. Section after section, row after row. Nothing but blue plastic and open air. This was supposed to be the hottest ticket the women's game has ever produced, and on this night, the building looked like a movie theater at 3 in the afternoon. The Indiana Fever took the floor against the Los Angeles Sparks, and the story was not the score. The story was the silence. Because it looks like the most loyal fan base in basketball just drew a line in the sand, and they did it the only way that actually forces a league to listen. They stopped showing up. And before anyone tells you that is an accident, walk through exactly how we got here. Because this did not come out of nowhere. Rewind to Wednesday night. The Fever are playing the Phoenix Mercury, and Caitlin Clark is doing what Caitlin Clark does, until a loose ball turns into something ugly. In the middle of the scramble, Alyssa Thomas drives her fist into Clark's throat. Not a slap, not a tangle, not incidental contact, a closed fist into the throat of the most marketed athlete this sport has ever produced. And here is the part that lit the fuse. No foul was called on the floor. The game simply kept going. Moments later, Clark gets jarred again on a hard landing that snaps at her back, and she walks away from that night, carrying an injury on top of everything else. It took the league office reviewing the tape after the fact to retroactively hand Thomas a flagrant 2 and a 1-game suspension. 1 game, that is it, for a fist to the throat. Indiana's own head coach Stephanie White refused to soften it. She called the play egregious and utterly disrespectful, and she said her star absorbed 2 cheap shots that were never whistled. She said it over and over. They spent the entire offseason studying officiating, and Clark still is not called the way everybody else is called. Now here is where the fans enter the story. For weeks there has been a steady drumbeat online, thousands of people typing the same message. Boycott the games Clark is not in. Tag the sponsors. Let the television executives feel it. Make them play in empty gyms. Plenty of people rolled their eyes and said fans never actually follow through. Well, take another look at that Sparks game. The upper deck, gone. Entire lower sections gone. And this is a franchise that has been throwing everything at the wall to fill seats. Giveaways, promotions, discounted tickets, free gifts handed out at the door. And the crowd still did not come. Let's be honest about the full picture, because this channel does not deal in half-truths. Clark was banged up and widely expected to sit that night. And a large share of those empty seats are people who only buy a ticket to watch number 22. That is real. But that is exactly the point the fans are screaming. They are telling this league and this front office that the building is electric when Clark plays and a ghost town when she does not. And they have stopped pretending otherwise. The Caitlin Clark effect built this, and you can watch it slide game by game. 17,000 against the Wings, then 15,000 for the Mystics, then 14,500 for the Storm, then 14,000 for the Fire. The line points one direction the entire way down. People predicted this 2 years ago. They warned that the league had a golden goose and that if it was not protected, it would be squandered. And here we are, watching it happen in real time, with rows of empty seats standing in as the receipt. And just when you would think the people in charge might read the room, in walks the other half of this disaster. Mercury head coach Nate Tibbetts steps to the podium before his next game, and instead of letting a 1-game suspension quietly pass, he turns it into a nearly 3-minute defense of the indefensible. The first words out of his mouth: the organization wants Alyssa Thomas to know she is 100% supported. He calls her a competitor, a winner, tough, and says the one thing she is not is cheap. Let that sit for a second. A fist to the throat, caught on video, reviewed by the league, ruled a flagrant 2, and the message from her own bench is that she is not cheap. Then he goes after the process itself. He says the investigation was not thorough. He says the people involved were never even questioned. He is disappointed that nobody from the league picked up the phone and called his player. And you have to ask the obvious question. Call her and say what, exactly? It is on video. The entire world watched it live. There is nothing to interview. The tape is the only witness anyone needs. But Tibbetts was not finished. because then comes the line that tells you everything. He warns the league against relying on his words, social media screenshots, and calls it a slippery slope. Social media screenshots. Nobody needed a screenshot. We watched it unfold in real time, in high definition, on national television. And then he pivots into a sermon about consistency. Do not base a call on whether someone is a generational talent or a role player, a veteran or a rookie, a superstar or a nobody, which sounds noble, right up until you remember what is actually on the table. This was never about labels. This is about what his player chose to do with her hand. The video does not care how famous anyone is, so bring it all the way back to that empty arena. Connect the dots, because they connect themselves. You have a superstar getting struck in the throat and walking off with a back injury. You have a league handing down one game like it is writing a parking ticket. You have a rival coach standing at a microphone calling the whole thing overblown. And you have a fan base that has finally figured out the only language this business truly respects. Not angry posts, not petitions, turnstiles that refuse to turn. The fans are not stupid, and they are not crazy, no matter who lines up to tell them they are overreacting. They watch their player get used like a heavy bag. They watch the punishment land like a tap on the wrist, and they made a choice. If the league will not protect the player who rescued it, the fans will stop funding the show. That is not bitterness, that is leverage. And here is the irony thick enough to cut with a knife. The very people who spent 2 years acting like Caitlin Clark was lucky to be allowed into their league are now staring at the proof that the league was lucky she ever walked in. The Fever actually won that Sparks game, by the way. Kelsey Mitchell poured in 26, and almost nobody was there to see it. Those empty seats are not a tragedy. They are a message, signed and delivered, and impossible to misread. The golden goose is still alive. The only question left is whether the people running this thing are smart enough to stop kicking it. Tell me down in the comments. Are the fans right to hit them where it actually hurts, or has this gone too far? And if you have been feeling like the only person who sees exactly what is happening here, trust me, you are not alone. Keep the vision.